Hi, Standers. This is Sheila Hollinger, founder of Marriage Revealed Ministries. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk about triggers. Yesterday, I did a video on anger, which is this is almost like a part two, because when I was talking about anger, I was talking about how sometimes we have a response reaction to something that doesn't fit what just caused us to be angry. We talked about how anger is a manifestation of hurt. And so triggers are part of that. A lot of times we get triggered by something, an emotion that it comes out and doesn't seem to fit what, the cause and reaction. They don't seem to connect. And so let's talk about some of the triggers. I'm going to give an example of how when you confront someone without realizing that you're confronting, when you point something out to someone and it makes them feel ashamed, makes them feel like, you're degrading them when you don't mean to. Sometimes it's just a natural thing. When you see a mess sitting there and you say, hey, that needs to be cleaned up. That's all you said. That needs to be cleaned up. It's the truth, right? How that person takes what you just said is not really up to you, right? Unless the way you said it was in a tone or in a way that was a little bit heavy-handed. Sometimes we don't just say, hey, clean up. We might imply something even more. And that's what I want to talk about. Implying something, whether you mean to or not. Here's a perfect example. When my children would say, hey, can I have this or have that? If I said to them, no, we can't afford it. All I was trying to say to them was it's too expensive. It's just not in our budget right now. But when my husband heard it, he heard it through a filter of that I was trying to imply that he didn't make enough money, that he wasn't a good provider. That was his filter. That was on him now, right? Now, if I had said it with the intent to shame my husband, if I said it in a way that said, oh, I'm sorry, you can't have that. We just don't have the money. In a tone with implication. And you guys should understand this. You can feel your words behind the words. You can feel the heart motive. You can feel when you are entering into a place where you might say one thing, but your heart has a message. And it comes out in your tone. It comes out in your attitude. It comes out into the atmosphere and someone will pick it up. So that's the other way. So you've got the person that isn't saying that at all, right? Not at all. They're not saying that to shame or make their husband feel bad. But that person, because they may already believe that they're not a good provider, they already might believe that other people think that about them. They think it about themselves. So what happens is whatever you believe about yourself, you will feel other people are implying that same message. It boils down to this. You've made a judgment against yourself. And what happens when you make a judgment against yourself and you hold yourself guilty, that creates like a filter around you, that everything that comes at you, you will start to think that other people are doing that to you as well. Men, I hope you hear this. If you have, created a judgment that you don't make enough, that you're not a good provider, let's say your wife does make more, or let's say that other man that she might be with now makes more money than you, and you're feeling less than, you're going to filter that. And everything. Let's say you get your kids a birthday gift and her and the other guy get them a birthday gift. You're going to filter it as they have more money. You're not good enough. You don't make enough, And you might even feel like they're trying to show you up. They're trying to do that, right? These are filters. These are triggers. These are things that come at you that really have that might not have anything to do with what you're feeling. Meaning they may not be trying to show you up. They may, right? They actually may, but that really depends. Sometimes it is a competition. Sometimes that new man wants to prove that he's better. Okay, but you've got to know the difference. You got to know, because I'll tell you right now, if you are secure, then he can do all he wants, and he's not going to be able to infect you with that garbage. You're not going to get sucked in. You're going to be secure, right? But if you are not secure, if that is a sensitive subject, a sensitive place for you, then yeah, whether that guy is trying to or not, it's going to trigger you and you're going to get into that place. So that's what I mean by triggers. Another topic could be, let's just say that you're cleaning the house and the kids made a huge mess and you tell the kids, you guys got to clean this up. I'm not letting you go to do, here's the example, right? This just happened, and this is why I actually am doing this video. The kids got up this morning and the dog had ripped up something that the puppy, our new puppy, had ripped up something the boys left out. And I told the boys, you have to clean this up before you go to the skate park with your dad. They had 2 hours. They wouldn't do it. Their father got up and I said, hey, before they go, they have been told they have to clean up this mess. And they all got in the car and they started to leave. I walked out there and I said to the boys, that was blatant disobedience. Now I was talking to my boys, right? Not my husband, but my boys. I was addressing the boys. What happened was my husband took it in a different way. It triggered him. It triggered him in a certain way because he knows that I came to him and I said, help me make sure the boys clean this up before they go. My husband knows that what happened was he didn't really, whatever he I'm not even going to speak for him, but he got triggered and he got upset. Now, I was not out there to confront my husband, but something happened. He got triggered either with guilt for not backing me up. Like, again, I'm not going to try to speak for him, but I am going to address the reaction didn't fit what had just happened this morning. I didn't go out there to confront my husband not backing me up, but I sure think that he got triggered by that, and that's exactly what happened. Now, I'll have to spend some more time checking my heart motive, because it very well could have been by me walking out there that I was addressing two things in one, addressing that the boys didn't listen and addressing that my husband didn't back me up and help me co-parent to make sure those boys did what they were told. I very well could have been. Maybe deep down in my heart, I knew what I was doing, right? But it triggered my husband, and he didn't react in a right way. And maybe that's exactly why he didn't react in a right way. Maybe because I didn't express it, maybe I did go out there to confront him. Maybe that was my heart motive the whole time and I just didn't know it. To walk out there and point out, you didn't back me up. And because he knows that I didn't do it in the right way, it triggered him to react badly to my confrontation. Usually triggers will cause a reaction that doesn't fit. And it's a lot of times it's because you feel ashamed, you feel guilt, you feel fear, you feel a place where all of a sudden something that you didn't get healed a long time ago and you're still holding unforgiveness, bitterness, you'll have a trigger and you will react out of that unforgiveness that you have happened to you 20 years ago. Or that place that you were terrified 20 years ago that you never got healed. And now, this present day, you're triggered and you're reacting out of it. And you're sitting there going, I don't get it. This is what I shared in my video about anger. how my husband cut back some plants, and it triggered a rage in me. And it was because of an unhealed place, an unhealed understanding that I was holding against my dad. I felt disrespected. I felt that I was unimportant, that what I loved, what I cared about was unimportant. It made me feel unimportant to my father. It was all a lot of it was misunderstanding. That I didn't understand why my father was taking away something that I loved. I honestly thought he didn't care about me, didn't care about my feelings, didn't love me. I might even grew up believing that the man hated me. There was a lot of things going on in him. And I grew up until I told people flat out, oh, my dad hates me. He doesn't like me. He doesn't react to me the same way he reacts to the other children. And so a lot of it was because I didn't gush all over my father. When I saw bad behavior from him, I didn't excuse it. I didn't confront him. I was not a confrontational person. But while the other kids would just climb up in his lap, give him hugs and love, if I saw bad behavior, I withdrew. And I think that triggered a shame response from my dad, a guilt response. And so when I withdrew from him, he withdrew from me. So yeah, he would come in the door with gifts for the other kids, and I would get nothing. And it was this thing that him and I went through constantly. We would go to the amusement park, and he would buy all these tickets and hand them to my brother and sister. My two sisters would go on rides. My brother would go on rides, and he would look at me with this look like, go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say that I didn't give you any tickets to go on rides. And it would be this battle of the wills. I would be like, Sheila, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Just hold your head up and don't cry. Don't let him see that he's affecting you. And he would be like, go ahead. Let me see the tears. Let me see the pouting. It would be this thing that him and I went back and forth. And I was his firstborn. So this had been going on for many years. And I don't exactly know what was going on, but I'll tell you right now, husbands and wives get into that same place where she's like, nope, you're not going to break me. You're not going to make me cry. Or the husband, you're not going to get me to do this. This battle that goes on. And I don't know exactly what's behind it, but it's not good. And people get into that, and that can trigger you to react. And so, a lot of times if you're sitting there, right, and you do something, you say something, and someone, your spouse, your child, someone has a really off the wall response that has nothing to do with what you just said. Because that's what happened out in the driveway just now. My husband, what he got triggered had nothing to do with what I just said. Everything he was, speaking about. And I was just like, what the heck? And I came in the house and I said, Lord, what was that? And I realized that I had triggered some type of reaction with him because he was realizing that he failed on his part to help me get the boys to clean up. And his reaction was not humility. His reaction was a trigger out of shame, out of guilt, and he deflected straight to anger. So if you're sitting there with a spouse who's being angry, and they're going off about things, and you're just like, what on earth is he talking about? Where did this come from? This is not. I just asked him to pick up a gallon of milk, and he's all of a sudden bringing up all these things. Or you get what I'm going with this? When the trigger brings out something and they twist it and they contort it, that's what happens with shame. That's what happens with guilt. They try to get that guilt, that shame to go away. They'll start pointing things out that you did wrong. Why do I have to take care of this? Why can't you? There's a lot of things that, and you're sitting there and you're flabbergasted. You're like, I don't get it. I do not know what's going on. And I'll tell you that when someone has a hard heart, they are at the capacity that they can handle being shamed, being guilted, being condemned, being judged. They are like, if you ever saw someone who was about to be, boil over, that's them, right? They cannot handle another ounce of condemnation, of guilt. They can't handle it. And their fuse is absolutely short. And you'll walk away saying to yourself, I can't say anything to this person. They take everything I say out of context. They twist everything. They fight me, and I didn't even say what they think I said. Right? If that's you, you need to understand that they are under so much pressure through their actions, through their choices, through their behavior, that no matter what you say, there's a hidden meaning coming out, whether you mean it or not. There's something coming out that's pointing the finger. Here's a great example. You have your child's birthday. They don't show up. You decide you're going to be nice and you want to send them photos of the child blowing out a video, blowing out the candles, the presents, whatever. Your heart is saying, I really wish they were here. I'm upset that they're not. But you know what? I'm going to humble myself and they don't deserve these photos. But you know what? I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to send these photos. I don't expect a reply. I don't expect anything, but I'm just going to do that because I love them and I don't want my spouse to have missed out. So this is the best I can do. You send the photos. Okay, that's one motive. It's pure. It's real, right? It's real. Here's the other motive. I can't believe they missed this. I'm going to send them the pictures and show them what they missed. I want them to feel bad. I want him to see what he didn't get to see, participate in. Or you send it to your wife. I can't believe that she's not here and she just left being a mom, and I'm going to do this and I hope it makes her feel guilty. I hope. Now, you might not realize that's your heart, right? But you're doing it, and deep down, that's your heart motive. Now, the spouse gets the pictures, gets that, and that's what they feel, that you did that to make them feel bad. Whether it was heart motive number 1, which was pure, or heart motive number 2. And they feel it because they already know they missed out. They already know they messed up. They already know they should have been there. There is no reason in the world that they should be with someone else's family or creating another family while they have a family. And they know it. And they might give every reason and excuse in the world, but they know they're wrong. And because they know, and because they keep trying to defend it, it creates this hostility. That if you're going to come at me and you're going to try to tell me I'm wrong, when I know I'm wrong, I'm going to scream at you. I'm going to yell at you. And all of a sudden, you're going to get this angry text, or you're going to get no text to reply back to the photos that you sent. Or you might just get a thanks. But you can feel the hostility. You can feel that they're upset. That's guilt. That's shame. And we think that people that are guilty and are full of shame, we kind of get this image of them cowering in the corner, crying. We think that that's what shame and guilt does. Condemnation does. That might be for some people. But for most people, it's a reaction of hostility, of deflection, of anger. You know, when you have a child and you're correcting them and you're pointing out what they did wrong, you're most likely not going to get a humble, you're right, Mom, I'm sorry. You're going to get defense. But they did this, they did that. And they're going to stand up for their actions, right? And you're going to sit there and think to yourself, it's so blatant and obvious what they did. Why can't they just confess? Why can't they just admit? Pride has a huge factor in that. It's very hard for someone to just humble themselves. Pride won't let you. Pride has no interest in being humble at all. It goes against the exact nature and character of pride. And so you've got shame, condemnation, and you've got guilt and pride, right? All in the mix. So it's a big smorgasbord of stuff that you got to try to get through. And here's the real kicker. When you really are guilty, when you really did walk away from your family, when you really did make that selfish, rebellious choice to turn away from God and what God has set as right. Okay, God's ways are righteous. They're there for reasons. He created marriage the way he created it for reasons, so we won't have divorce. We won't have broken families. We won't have parents missing birthday parties because they're with someone else, creating another family. God does things in a way for our good, for our protection, right? So when you walk away from that, you're basically saying, God, I don't want what you've created. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I'm denying it. I'm rebelling against it. I'm being lawless. And when you enter that state, you basically fling the door open wide for the enemy. Now he has rights. You've given him a right. Anytime we sin, we're basically putting our hands out in front of us and saying, all right, Satan, come handcuff me, drag me away, lead me away. If you go willingly and you keep going down that path, the snare gets bigger and bigger and bigger. A lot of standers are not grasping what this is really about. They're not bringing God into this situation at all. They're not bringing repentance. You want your spouse out of that situation? They've got to go back to the beginning where they decided to walk away from what God created. And they've got to recognize it and say, God, I was wrong. You created marriage for a reason this way. And I rebelled. And I walked away and opened the door. And I fell. And I kept falling. And I made more and more and more of a mess trying to clean it up. Now I've got a whole nother, person who I'm hurting. I've got maybe another family, her kids, his kids. I've got a whole nother situation here. And I just dug myself another huge hole. And I don't know how to get out of it. That's where your spouse needs to go. Back to God. They can't come to you and try to clean it up, because you can't grant them repentance. So you guys need to keep God at the front and center of this. Every day I go in the group, the Standards United Facebook group, and I see these posts. They're so long. My spouse did this. My spouse did that. I need my spouse to stop doing this behavior. I need my spouse to come back. I need my spouse to recognize. Not one time are they saying, maybe at the very end, they're acknowledging God and the relationship. Maybe. And it breaks my heart, because that is a stander in the dark who still hasn't grasped that this is about their relationship, your spouse's relationship. When they walked away in the beginning, it wasn't from you. It was from God's created way of marriage. That's what they walked away from. They made the decision that they don't like what God set up and how he set it up, and they're going to do things their own way. And in order for everything to come back and to be in right alignment, they've got to go back to God and apologize and say, I see it now. I see what you did, how you created marriage, why you created marriage, and I see how I rebelled against that, and I went against your ways. So you get what I'm trying to say? They can't come to you and say, I see how you created marriage, husband, or I see how you designed marriage, wife, and I was wrong. No, that's not going to set them free. They might try. They might come home and say, I want to give this a try. And we see a lot of spouses that do that, but they never go to God. Ever. They never go up to God and say, God, I messed up. I did not respect marriage. And they try to make it work. And they're still snared. They're still in an unrepentant state. And that's what happens is they give up and they go back. They get tormented and they get lured back into the trap. And those are the false starts videos that I've done, the teachings on false starts. So I know I got off subject with triggers, but you got to understand what triggers are. They don't usually fit the situation. But it's something to understand. If your spouse is reacting completely not how you expect, has nothing to do with what you just said, taken out of context, then that's a trigger of shame, guilt. And you got to first check your heart, make sure that, you were pure in your motives and what you did, right? You need to repent. You need to go to God and you need to, get that cleared up. But you also need to recognize that your spouse might be on the verge of boiling over and they can't handle another thing. So it might not be the perfect timing to talk to them about stuff that might trigger them, right? But this information helps. It helps knowing why they react the way they do. Because I'll tell you right now that their triggers can trigger you. They're going off the deep end can trigger you into doing something, grabbing those divorce papers and signing them, getting into a big fight, saying things you don't mean, all because you're not understanding what's driving their trigger. So now you're triggered in hurt, rejection, and anger yourself. So now you got two people just going back and forth. Battle of the wills, battle of the triggers, battle of the pain, battle of shame, battle of guilt. Maybe you realize that you did something, you did go to your spouse and you did point something out. And you knew what you were doing. And you got a horrible reaction from them, which now created you to react out of guilt. Because deep down, you're like, I knew it. I knew deep down, I knew what I was doing. And now you're guilty. And now you're full of shame. You're being, condemned. But you're rebelling against that. Now you're screaming at them. So you got two people doing the same exact thing. And it happens. And this is why spouses walk away and go no contact sometimes. Because every single conversation goes haywire, upside down, inside out. The two of you walk away going, what just happened? None of that made sense. And it's mostly because there's just so much shame, so much guilt, so much judgments. All right, guys, thank you for joining me. If this video blessed you, please give it a thumbs up. Give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed, I want to invite you to go ahead and subscribe because I'm really working on figuring out how to do some live streams. I'm going to look into the membership join option. I'm all about protecting standards. So it really, I want to make sure that if we do some live streams, there's some type of protection. And I'm wondering if having a membership where, if you came in through a membership only, that might protect you. So, only a member could actually watch the live stream. So it wouldn't just be this public video out for anybody to watch. So I'm going to do that, a little bit of research on that. So if you guys know anything about memberships and whatnot, You can go ahead and put that in the comments and help me out. All right. God bless you guys. Have a great day.